Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of Sights on Sinnoh, the Diamond and Pearl anime podcast, jumping into what's going on as our heroes travel through the Sinnoh region, and as we get closer to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which may or may not be out by the time, actually, that this podcast gets released. But we have one of our many rotating co-hosts coming by today, and this time, it is Manny. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm doing amazing. Time of this recording as a wrestling fan, wrestling is definitely on a hot streak.
Okay.
So many talent that have left WWE to come to this new company, AEW. So definitely a good time because one of the things kind of sucks about WWE is they don't acknowledge other companies.
Interesting.
So, if you came from another company, they pretty much say "Oh, your career didn't start until you came to WWE."
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things where they're the only company that exists, but this company AEW is actually partnering with a lot of companies, so they're getting a lot of their talent and former wrestlers that work for WWE. So it's kind of like a thank you to the fans in a way. So it's definitely very exciting seeing a lot of not new but known names in the wrestling industry coming to AEW. And it is funny because when we get on later to the second episode, I was definitely excited seeing a wrestling ring in one of the episodes that we're going to review.
Yes.
That was pretty cool timing. But yeah, ready to get into this first episode. But how was your week?
Doing well. I actually did something that's been taking me months, which is achieve the first Battle Tower ribbon in my ribbon quest of Pokemon Emerald.
Oh, that's nice. What is this ribbon?
This, I think it's the winner ribbon, and you have to beat the Battle Tower. You have to win 50 battles in a row for this ribbon.
Oh, okay.
So I finally got it, and now I just have to do one more at the Battle Tower with my Pokemon at level 60, and I'm good to go. So that is a big accomplishment for me, and I'm trying to get a Milotic all the way from Emerald to Sword and Shield.
And is there I'm not too into the battle aspect, but is there an importance to getting ribbons transferred to Sword and Shield?
Yeah, so these ribbons you can't get outside of this game. That's why technically you have to start in Gen 3. So if you want a Pokemon with certain ribbons and certain titles, you have to collect them all the way back in these games for the Game Boy Advanced.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm excited. That was never going to happen because the AI can be really tricky and overpowered at times. But I got my team of Milotic, Hariyama, Latias, and Metagross, and we powered through. So it's gonna be a challenge doing the next one, but I think we'll be fine now that we've done this one.
You've been doing this for a while, or did you see? Were you inspired by the Wallace Cup arc and decided to do this?
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Wallace Cup did
Okay.
reinvigorate me, though. Yeah.
All right, that's good to know.
I'll definitely be teaching my Milotic some new moves as we get into Gen 4, where the moves definitely improve a lot. But in this case, we have our heroes on their own challenge as we wrap up the Wallace Cup. We are now headed towards Pastoria City, and we're actually pretty close. So it feels like because the Wallace Cup just ended, that one episode from now we're going to be in Pastoria City, but it feels like it just kind of came out of nowhere for me, even though we've been traveling for a while technically.
Yeah. Definitely, we don't get a timeline as to how long they've been traveling since the Wallace Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We just get that reminder that Dawn won the ribbon, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. My Hoenn bias came out during that arc, and I wanted May to win. But
Mhm.
it's a really beautiful designed ribbon. So I mean, I guess we could assume maybe it's been a week
Yeah,
or
so we see the ribbon in the previous episode with the masquerade, or not the masquerade, the
Yama.
Yanma,
Yeah,
and now this is maybe like a day or two after. I'm assuming.
yeah,
It
that
could
could
even
be
be the
it.
same day, honestly. But
That's very true. Yeah.
yeah, it does look like they are very involved though in their training as we start the episode off with Chimchar, Piplup, and Staravia on Dawn's side facing off with Ash's Turtwig, Weasel, and Pikachu, who Ash declares is the team that he's going to use for the Pastoria gym.
And I had a question about this because I wanna. I don't know if it was just like something they introduced in Kanto and then just eventually just faded it away. Do you remember the Growlithe Academy episode?
I don't think so.
The no, okay. So there was this thing that they emphasized, and that was that Pokemon only listen to the voice of their trainers.
Oh.
So the whole plot was that Team Rocket got a megaphone and had the voices of each character to trick their Pokemon. That's how they were
Mm.
doing it to catch them. So it kind of like the main thing was that they used it on Growlithe, which
Mm-hmm.
attacked its officer Jenny, and then
Really?
yeah, because I
Jeez.
think Jesse, it was either Jesse or James, but they put the setting on Officer Jenny's voice,
Mm-hmm.
and they made it I think use bite on that Jenny, and it did so. And they also did it with Pikachu, but Pikachu kind of like was conflicted because like, wait, is that Ash? Is that not Ash? So
Oh
I thought it
man.
was. I like remembering that when I saw this, and there's been lots of times also during the entire series as a whole. But my question was like, was that mechanic specifically just for that episode, or did they decide like, oh, you know, it's not really an important key? Because I know they kept it a couple of episodes after. I think it kind of stopped before Johto. It was like only the Pokemon listen to their trainers. That was the thing that they emphasized. Like let's say you had a Pikachu and I tried to make it use an attack, it wouldn't unless it was your voice that said so.
Wow, okay. I did not know about that, but I kind of like that it's not a thing anymore because
Uh,
it's it does seem a little silly that like the Pokemon gets confused just by the voice, even though they're like trainers right there.
yeah, that's true. I think it was probably because at the time they wanted them to be seen kind of like just regular creatures,
Mm-hmm.
and over time they were like, well, let's give each of them different personalities because not every single Pokemon is the same.
Right.
Yeah, but that every time like I see a trainer use a different Pokemon, like that question always pops into my head. Like, did they just like decide to just do away with that, or was
Right.
it just for that certain episode? But we do get to see like the strength of Ash's three chosen Pokemon. Oh, when
Yes, as he
yeah,
has Dawn help him with with using his other Pokemon, Staravia and Chimchar, along with her
yes,
Piplup, to fire off attacks and have our side's Pokemon like kind of counter those. Or in the case of Staravia and Weasel, Weasel can just kind of overpower Staravia's aerial ace, as we see.
yeah, and it was really cool to see them kind of be like, I guess in a sense, stronger than the others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just mainly to give you that focus that this is who Ash is going to use. So they kind of have
Mm-hmm.
to seem like they're pumped up and ready, and that energy definitely flew to Ash's glider, which is really fun to see. Cause
Yeah.
you see that I think when you talk about personality, this glider definitely has a very unique, interesting personality to it.
Right. He's very excitable and continually like flies into Ash throughout this episode, but then can also be a bit of a of a crybaby without
Yeah,
when it's like disappointed or sad.
yeah,
Uh,
and then you see that it has like that want in the battle as
Mm-hmm.
well, which is really cool. And a part of me wants to kind of like see this Gligar become an apprentice to Buizel. 'Cause,
Mm.
Buizel is a battle ready type of Pokemon, and Gligar wants to participate in battles. So it would be
Yeah.
cool if they become like sensei and student.
Yeah, that'd be kind of neat. Kind of have that guidance going from one of Ash's Pokemon to another. But Ash is wisely choosing not to use Gligar for the gym battle just yet. Instead, to help him with that desire to like get battling, he actually, Brock actually proposes that they battle. So Brock's like, "Yeah, I can do it, just like for fun or practice, basically." And they face off between Gligar and Sudowoodo. But Team Rocket's also just flying by, and we see a strong wind kind of pick up their balloon, and that wind also affects Gligar, who tries to go in for a Steel Wing, but then gets blown away by this strong gust of wind right into Team Rocket's balloon.
Yeah. At first, I thought the wind was the tension that Dawn had mentioned. 'Cause you see, like before the battle, she's like, "Oh, like this feels like pretty tense."
Mhm.
I thought that was like the metaphorical tension that they were, like the aura that they were exuding.
Mhm.
But it was actually like a gust of wind that just came out of nowhere, and the Gligar, and luckily it landed on the balloon, but
Mhm.
unfortunately for Team Rocket, it kind of punched a hole into their balloon, and we get a bit of an early blast off.
Yes.
But unfortunately, another gust of wind comes, takes Gligar away.
Right. As Gligar's like letting go because it doesn't really have hands; it has claws. So
Yeah.
the moment it grabs the balloon, it just leaves a hole and blows Team Rocket away. And it comes down not near Ash, but near another trainer who is using their Electabuzz to try and catch a Drapion. And just as he's about to throw the ball, Gligar like glides in, and this trainer just moves out of the way slightly, like taking 2 steps, and it crashes into a boulder. And during that distraction, Drapion digs into a hole away, revealing that it is Paul of all people who is on his quest to catch that Drapion.
Yeah, and what do you think Paul meant when he said that Drapion wasn't their problem? It
I was
escaped.
confused by that also because it was clear that Electabuzz wanted to catch it, and Paul's like, "Don't worry about it." But I'm like, it's weird that you say
Yeah.
not our problem.
Yeah, because obviously he as well had the intention of catching it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be battling, because we also see a Pokeball in his hand.
Mhm.
That was his Electabuzz's Pokeball. But we know that Paul likes to catch Pokemon to check them out to see if they're strong or not. So for
Right.
him kind of saying like, "Oh, just let it get away because it isn't our problem," kind of confusing, because I was like,
Mhm.
"Well, aren't your intentions to catch that Pokemon? How could it not be
Right.
your problem?" I would understand if you said it about Gligar, like, "Oh, that's not our
Mhm.
problem that it crashed." But he said it towards that Drapion, which was very confusing.
Yeah, he didn't seem particularly upset either that Drapion got away. So
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe it was a translation thing or something, but kind of odd. Staravia does show up, and once spotting Gligar, flies back to our heroes and tells them where it is. So they run on over to Gligar, who's just crying on the rock, and like terrified of Paul, basically. And Paul's
Yeah.
just like, "You stopped our trading. Get out."
Like, really just leaves it there. Like, would you not
Hmm.
go and defend it and like hope it glide to Ash? Or just been like, "Oh, there you are. Let me come back." But I do understand that it's part of the plot because of what ends up happening
Hmm.
afterwards. So yeah, we do see a very scared and timid watery-eyed Gligar, and once it sees Ash, it's happy and it's relieved, and that's how Paul finds out that that glider belongs to Ash.
Yeah, at some, like no point they really acknowledge that. Like there's a moment where Paul's like, "Oh, it's yours" or anything. Like,
Yeah.
like there's zero reaction from Paul for a lot of things, which I thought was kind of weird. But yeah, Gligar is reunited with Ash as it just kind of like runs to Ash with its arms up in the air. Um, and all of Ash's Pokemon are still outside their Pokeballs as they run over to him. And Chimchar kind of hides behind Ash as he sees Paul, which is an interesting detail that's going to come up. And then Pikachu and Turtwig just kind of walk up and wave to Electabuzz, and Electabuzz is actually kind of nice and is like, "Hey,
Yeah.
back to them."
Yeah, and it's funny because in the Japanese version, kind of
Mhm.
sounded like Turtle said hello to it.
Oh,
Because its name is Night.
cute.
Yeah, its name is Nidal, so I think it sounded like. I guess in a way they don't. At times they do say their names, but I don't think Turtle was saying its name, just making it sound. But it did sound like I said hello, hello, which is really cute. And it was cool to see Electabuzz as well be like, "Yo, what's up?" And it
Yeah.
was like just that complete contrast to Chimchar being afraid
Mhm.
of Paul upon seeing him, and Pikachu and Turtwig just going up and saying hi to the Electabuzz. And I kind of thought that Paul was probably gonna give Electabuzz a side eye,
Yeah.
but like you said again, yeah, no reaction from Paul whatsoever.
And I think it's because of what's going to happen right now in this little conversation. But before we move on to that, do you remember why Electabuzz might be a little more friendly this time?
I do remember because of the last episode that I was on with Team Galaxy, when
Team Galactic,
Electabuzz
yeah.
when Electabuzz oh yeah, Galactic, sorry. Galaxy is the Japanese name.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
Electabuzz yeeted that Pikachu with that awesome Volt Tackle Thunder combo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh man.
I mean, I guess the saying is true. Friendships are forged on the battlefield,
Mhm.
and yeah. But I maybe I missed it, but I don't know where the camaraderie between Electabuzz and Turtwig came.
Yeah, I don't know either. I I guess Turtwig's just like, yeah, I'm friends too now, apparently.
Yeah. That, well, I guess yeah, because I guess it's still in its nature since it was pretty much like a
Mhm.
guardian for a while. So it pretty much embraces every Pokemon, and it could probably tie back to their first encounter where Turtwig pretty much didn't want to hurt Electabuzz when it was in Elekid.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that, but yeah, I was a bit confused. Like, oh, why is Turtwig going up to Electabuzz as well?
Right, like out of all people, like Piplup would have been a bit more interesting because Piplup and Electabuzz were the ones who were fighting initially when they got to Veilstone.
Yes.
But the fight here is a little different this time as Ash starts just by saying, "Hey, did you win your gym battle at Pastoria yet?" And and Paul just says, "I can't imagine why a losing coordinator like you would have any concern about gym paddles," which everyone's just confused about. And Don's like, "What do you mean?" And Paul's like, "Yeah, I saw the Wallace Cup." And he's like, Ash's like, "Yeah, I joined because Wallace told me I should join because he thought it would help with Weasel's battle skills." And Weasel's also like, "Yeah." Like, I love how all of Ash's Pokemon are present during this scene. Paul just kind of laughs under his breath and he brings up the subject of, "Do you remember the reason I joined the tag battle competition in Hearthome City?" And Ash is like, "Yeah." And Paul says, "Well, you gave me a hard time because I did it to get my Pokemon in shape for a better battle. He wasn't joining it to win it." And then Paul says that that's a direct. He basically says that that is comparable to what Ash did in joining the Wallace Cup.
Firstly, I will say that I felt like in the Wallace Cup arc, we kind of got a sense of Paul keeping his eye on Ash.
Yes.
Because if he didn't care, why would he always like bother stop in and see what Ash is up to whenever he participates in something. But yeah, I also agree. I do agree with Paul's point. Ash was wrong for knocking him for just wanting to join the tag battle, for wanting to become strong, because he definitely did the same with the contest. Actually joined it just to help his Weasel get stronger. And then he goes and tries to make like a point where he emphasizes again, like he tells Paul, like I entered the tag battle because I wanted to win, but you only entered it because you wanted to be your Pokemon to get stronger. And I kind of didn't see the point that Ash is trying to make. As a trainer, don't you always want your Pokemon to get stronger?
Yeah, I get the intention here, but I don't think the dialogue is super strong. And I feel like what Ash is trying to say is that yes, I did the contest, but what's different is the context of the competition. Whereas in the tag battle, what Paul did on the field directly affects his partner, which in that case was Ash. So if he is only focusing on powering up his Pokemon and not winning, that puts Ash in an awkward position where he can't really do anything.
Yeah, and I wish they would have emphasized that a bit more, because it definitely leaves you like kind of dumbfounded. But I will say that when it comes to Paul, I'm not a fan of Ash. I feel like he lets Paul get to his head really quick.
Yeah, he's definitely easily influenced by Paul's words.
Yeah, but definitely when it comes to the character of Ash, it definitely is like one of those red flags where you kind of want to tell Ash, like, dude, just ignore it. Come on.
Right.
But it's definitely important because of the relationship between those two.
Right. Here, even Dawn and Brock are like, oh, they're gonna fight right now, and you even see Ash's hand like become like a fist, and all his Pokemon also know this too.
Yeah.
But then Ash seems to like, even though they're showing him to be mad, he kind of jumps back into the argument. They say like, hey, we both have the same goal of getting into the Sinnoh League and then winning the Sinnoh League and then also battling Cynthia. And this is actually a direct callback to a line, as Ash says to Paul, after you battled Cynthia, you told me I can do whatever I want to battle my own way, and you told me that you were going to also. And Paul actually admits it. He's like, I guess I said that. And that's where Ash kind of declares his mission now, which is to be strong by believing in the strength of his friends through trust and love, which all his Pokemon are very happy to hear.
Yeah, it's, as a trainer, it's definitely something admirable to say that you trust and love your Pokemon. And I feel like if he would have brought that conversation up first, I would have understood his point of view. And you do kind of see Paul be like, oh, I guess I did say that. Like, kind of acknowledging it, but not wanting to acknowledge it because he knew he was in the wrong. Brock as well steps in and kind of reminds him as well of what Cynthia told him.
Yes, exactly right. Ash, Brock tries to mediate a bit here. Though I wish at least Dawn or Brock had stepped in maybe earlier and tried to calm Ash down before. Because we've seen that Ash can just like ignore whatever Paul's saying. Like when they were at the tag battle and Chimchar won, and he even like as he's helping Chimchar like feel better, he even tells, yeah, Chimchar, just ignore him, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like, let's say Dawn stepped in, Paul would have said something to her, and she's a bit of a hothead, so she would have gotten riled up. But if Brock would have stepped in, he probably would have said something to Brock. Maybe Ash would have gotten riled up more, or maybe he just would have not said anything, because you kind of see that when Brock mentions what Cynthia told him, or like when Brock steps in, like Paul just stays quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've kind of seen like various times, like when came to Rourke's gym and kind of like respected I guess he was the referee, when he told him like, oh, Rourke's not here, and he's like, oh, please let me know when he comes, and he bows.
Right.
Paul respects his elders, but when it comes to like people his age, not as kind, because you also see as well, like we remember he gave the little kid his Azumarill.
I we talked about this, and I still think that Paul did it in like the least like ethical way, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't
Sure.
think he would pick on a little kid.
I know he won't, but like it's still funny that
Yeah.
that Paul still manages to piss off Ash by doing something that's supposed to be nice because of the way he does it.
But that just shows you how easily Paul can just smash his head without even trying, I feel.
Yeah,
yeah,
and this brings Ash to challenge Paul to a battle here as Paul walks away saying that he's wasting his time here. And as he does, Chimchar actually steps out from behind Ash and starts yelling at Paul angrily, which Paul actually responds to with a smile and says, "Yeah, fine by me. Let's do 3-on-3."
yeah. And I think it was more Paul wanting to see how Chimchar had improved with Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see first that like Ash is like, oh, let's have a battle, but Paul's not having it. And it took Chimchar to kind of convince Paul. I don't know if it was either him like wanting to be like, oh, you're stepping up to me, Pokemon that I got rid of, like I'll show you. Or if it was more like,
Maybe.
well, let me see what you've improved on, or if you have improved.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he gets Paul to agree, and even Ash thanks Chimchar, saying, oh, thank you for getting him to do this.
Right. Yeah, because he was clearly not listening to Ash, but when Chimchar stepped in, that's when his curiosity peaked for sure. Then we get Dawn using her coin toss app on her Pokétch for like of all the apps on her Pokétch, this is the one that has gotten like the most screen time, I'm pretty sure. But it's just to decide again who attacks first during the battle. For some reason, there's some matches where they want to use this, but others where they don't really care. But in this case, they seem to. And Ash wins, getting heads. And as he's asking his Pokemon who wants to step in, Gligar is just like, me, like, put me in, coach.
So is it spelled Ligar?
Gligar?
Gligar?
Yeah.
Is it not Gligar like glider?
Maybe that's.
In the Japanese, it's Gligar.
What do you mean? The spelling's different or the same?
Yeah, the spelling is different. It's ER.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because they say the name in English as well, it sounds like they say AR. They go Gligar. I thought it was Gligar because it sounded like glider, and that's what Gligar does. It glides.
Right. Gligar cannot fly.
Okay.
It needs the wind. But yes, it sounds really similar if you change the A or the E either way. But yes, for English, it is Gligar.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call it Gligar just because that's what I grew up calling it. So.
Well, there you go.
Gligar stepping up to the plate, very enthusiastic, kind of wanting to get its feet wet. Because earlier Ash had told him, like, before you can join a Pokemon battle, we need to get you to battle trainers, kind of like learn and experience.
Right, Ash says, we can't just put you in a gym battle. You have to, like, see how other trainers battle first before we do that.
Yeah.
And Gligar is like, "Yep, I'm gonna do what Ash said then," and jumps in, and immediately regrets it because Paul sends out Gliscor, and that is the evolved form of Gligar.
I feel like Paul in some way stalks Ash. Like he happens to have a Glide.
So there is actually a reason he has this Gliscor. There is an episode where this Gliscor got trapped in a city with a bunch of wind currents and couldn't get out. And because it uses its like sonic waves to tell where it's going, the city walls made those bounce around and had all these Gligar come into the city, including Ash's Gligar. So Paul actually came to that city to catch that Gliscor specifically and then left. And then afterwards, this Gligar got attached to Ash, and that's where Ash caught it. So this is the weirdest thing to me. They never acknowledge it this episode, but technically Paul's Gliscor is the leader of Ash's Gligar.
Oh, okay. I probably missed that episode. But that's
Yeah.
that's interesting. I wish they kind of would have emphasized that as well during
Right.
this battle because we kind of see. I mean, it does get intimidated, but I thought it was just because Gligar is very timid Pokemon.
Right, and immediately it's clear that once it sees that it's facing off its evolved form, it's in a different power class. Like Gligar, it does not have much of a chance here. But yeah, it is a weird that they never bring that up because these two Pokemon literally have a relationship before they were caught, but no one seems to really recognize it. I guess it's either Gligar just being intimidated because it's an evolved form, or because Gligar knows that this guy used to be its leader before they were caught by humans. But either way, Ash cheers Gligar on, tells it to go in with X Scissor, but Gliscor responds with a knockoff and just just like slams down on poor Gligar's head. So Ash responds by having Gligar use Sand Attack on Gliscor, who does not really seem to take any effect from this, since it's an attack that is supposed to lower a target's accuracy.
Yes, and first of all, it's officially named X Scissor?
Yes.
Okay. See, I've been saying it wrong. I've been saying Cross Scissor. Because you know how like sometimes X is cross. And I thought it was Cross Scissor because in the Japanese version, Ash says use Scissor Cross.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. So I could have sworn like in the anime they called it Cross Scissor as well, but I think that was just me always calling it Cross Scissor. So
Got it.
X Scissor. Okay, and yeah, it definitely showing the difference in power between this Gligar and the Gliscor, and Don kind of taking note that Sand Attack isn't having any effect whatsoever on this Gliscor.
Yeah, because Gliscor is just standing there and like not even reacting to it. And Paul says like, "Yeah, okay, now go use guillotine," and just completely flies over the sand with a Gligar kind of caught off guard. Ash is like, "Quick, like use Steel Wing to counterattack," but it's too late, and it's not fast enough to stop the guillotine from Gliscor, as it just slams it into the ground, knocking it out.
Yeah, and then when we get the exposition of Brock explaining the effect of guillotine, a 1 KO type move.
Yes, guillotine is one of those moves that can instantly knock out an opponent if it hits, but in the game it usually only has about a 30% chance of hitting. So that's the effective function here. But what makes that kind of effective, or what makes that significant if you know the games, is that technically Gliscor should have a really low chance of hitting even with Sand Attack. But if you are a higher level than your opponent, you have a higher chance of hitting your opponent with these one-hit KO moves.
So I guess it was just a matter of my score definitely being a bit higher in terms of level.
That's the implication, yeah.
Yeah, and after the match, we see a teary-eyed Gligar, which is
Yeah.
devastated that it couldn't get the win for its trainer. And Paul just comes in and like, oh, I hope that Pokemon knows that the loss was the trainer's fault. And you just see Ash just like immediately just get mad.
Yes.
And once again, just Paul kind of like poking at Ash's ego.
Definitely. Like this interaction is all about getting inside Ash's head. Like other times he's made fun of the Pokemon or like called them pathetic, but here he's really just attacking Ash at a personal level. And they move on to the second match with Paul using Ursaring, and then Chimchar stepping up to volunteer and battle, and that's who he sends out here. And Ash and Pikachu's actually kind of concerned, but Chimchar gives him the thumbs up, and then Pikachu's like, "All right, go for it, dude."
Yeah, we definitely see that concern on Pikachu. Because I guess Pikachu knows well, obviously it's not a guess. Pikachu knows the past. It's the terrible past that Chimchar had when it came to the rigorous training regimen of Paul. It was more of like, you sure you got this? You know, like I don't want you to kind of like get in over your head. But Chimchar kind of giving that thumbs up and just like, no, it's good. I'll be fine. Pikachu,
Right.
Pikachu, I don't think is the type that would try to stop somebody if he didn't believe in it. So it's just more of like, okay, well, I believe in you. And Ash starts with a flamethrower.
Yeah, but Ursaring just blocks it, not even trying to dodge. So Dawn actually points this out, and Brock's like, "Yeah, that's confidence, isn't it?" Ash just tried to say, like, "Hey, look, my flamethrower is stronger now, isn't it?"
He's like, oh, flamethrower is stronger, huh? Like, I feel like it's so annoying. Like, it was like at that point, I felt like it was definitely in his head because he's like trying to taunt Paul at the same time. Just as a viewer, it's like, and come on, don't let him get in your head.
Right.
In the sub, he just says like, oh, flamethrower's gotten a lot stronger since you last saw it, but he's not taunting Paul. He's just
Yeah.
kind of like praising Chimchar. Whereas in here, he definitely let Paul get into his head, and now he's like kind of trying to get back at him, but definitely left like a bad taste in my mouth just because he sounded like a super annoying kid.
I kind of liked it, but it also felt like it would have been more impactful if he had just done more damage and it just didn't get blocked by Ursaring. Like,
yeah, definitely.
That's the part that feels weird to like say, "Oh, look, my move got stronger," even though it still got blocked. Like, don't don't say that. That
Yeah,
shouldn't be the evidence.
but I think it was him saying that because you kind of see Ursaring gets pushed back a little bit before it all the way. So that's where Ash kind of was like, "Oh, let me taunt."
That's fair.
And
Yeah.
from there he transitions into Flame Wheel.
Well, before that, Ursaring actually uses Focus Blast. So,
oh, that's right. Yes.
very strong fighting type move introduced in this generation. Basically, a like ball of energy he throws at Chimchar, and Chimchar looks kind of surprised at first, but is able to block it too, which I was like, "Oh, way to go, Chimchar!"
Yeah, Chimchar kind of giving Ursaring a receipt, being like, "Well, you stopped my attack. Well, let me stop yours." And you kind of see that confidence in Chimchar kind of build when he stops it. And I feel like for the character of Chimchar, that's definitely something it needed because of how timid it's been, and kind of like acknowledging that Ash is very different from Paul, whereas Ash is kind of nurturing. Paul is more like cold-hearted. So
Right.
it's a way of like him showing like, hey, like me and Ash are doing just fine. And definitely like being like, oh, you stop my attack now, let me stop yours. And I thought it would have at least struck Paul. Like, he would have been like, oh wow, like it got stronger, and like no reaction whatsoever.
Right. And the battle just continues. Chimchar uses Dig, and Ursaring uses Hammer Arm on the ground to knock Chimchar out of the hole, basically. I feel like we've seen this trope a few times already, where someone uses Dig and then they just hit the ground, causing them to come back up. And this is where Chimchar then goes in for a Flame Wheel, which Ursaring intercepts by just catching Chimchar. And he tries to use Scratch, but Paul has Ursaring use Secret Power.
Yeah. At first, I loved the way Ursaring stopped that flame wheel. It looked so cool, visually. And yeah, we see Secret Power, which. How do you feel about like the way that it's shown? Like it's like a pink, glittery aura.
Yeah, so we've seen Secret Power now a few times in this season specifically, and I'm okay with it. I kind of wish it changed colors depending on the territory.
Because in the game, it's like, does it have a visual? I'm trying to remember. It was like
It
a red
kind
orb,
of
right?
so the visual I think changes depending on what
Oh, that's right. Yes,
effect it
that's
has.
true.
Yeah, because as they explain here again, Secret Power has a chance of a different effect depending on where it's used. So in this case, it is in a rocky area, so it's able to flinch an opponent.
Mhm.
And
Then with May, it was paralysis, right?
yes,
And then they kind of acknowledged as well that it was gonna put people up to sleep as well if it would have been a water puddle.
yeah, and those are actually not um super accurate looking at what superpower actually does. Like the flinching thing usually only works when it's in a cave. If it's in a rock area like this, it should cause confusion. And that's the part that to me seems kind of weird because we actually saw Brock's Hapiti use secret power a while ago near a bunch of rocks, and it confused all these bead drills. So I guess for like story purposes, they just kind of change what it does a bit in the anime.
Yeah, Pokemon has a tendency to just
Yeah.
use what they feel will fit to the plot. I think for me personally, I kind of like it if like Secret Power had its own aura for each Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
I definitely liked the way it looked around Maze Glaceon. I thought the color scheme fit it well. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with Paul, he's more of like cold-hearted. Maybe it could have been like a Raging Red, or a bit of like a go with Ursaring's color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the way it looks is it's too beautiful for like an
It
Ursaring
is
that's
right.
like strong and like its trainer in a way.
It seems very glamorous for Ursaring, given that
Yeah.
Ursaring and Paul are very tough individuals. But here
Yeah,
they
and
say that secret power causes flinching, and basically Chimchar is not able to move. And even as it gets free, Ash tries to have it use an attack, but it's still kind of terrified of Ursaring now after that secret power.
I like the way that Finch is shown in the series. It definitely like shows off like that fear, whereas in the games it's just kind of like you see the Pokemon like get tears,
Mm-hmm.
just moves a bit. This you see why it's flinched. It's more of like a mental thing. Like it's
Yes.
I guess in a way it is confused, but more with fear because you see
Right.
Chimchar like the way that Ursaring is visualized in its head because of the flinch is like a big monster that
Mm-hmm.
that is just super like afraid of.
Right. And that image keeps Chimchar from moving as Ursaring goes in with a hammer arm, and just as it's about to hit, it looks like Chimchar's pupils like roll to the back of its head, basically.
Yeah, like it was ready to faint out of fear.
Yes, exactly. And as Ursaring hits it, all of these rocks come flying around it, burying Chimchar. To which Ash's reaction is like,
Wow.
Chimchar?
Yeah, like, oh, come on. I mean, I feel like he definitely went far
Right,
with the
that seemed a bit
whole.
overboard for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it was more of a rock tomb rather
Yeah!
than
It literally looks
it
like Rock Tomb. So,
definitely caught me by surprise because it's not something that I expected. Like for them to like visually bury Chimchar alive,
mhm,
and it was yeah, and then I like that they gave Ash that reaction as well. That
mhm,
he's just like, oh, like, or like, did that just happen? Because I feel like
mhm.
if it was just would have been rage or like him just being like, oh no, we lost. Like I feel like it wouldn't have gone at the moment.
Yes. This is more realistic for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Ash could even be even more like concerned or perturbed by this.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he's still in shock. And he's even more shocked as Paul, who says like, "Well, guess that's it." And then they both notice that the rocks are moving, and Chimchar just literally blazes out of these rocks with its tail like slash booty flame completely at full blast, and you see a furious Chimchar come screaming down onto the battlefield with fire just blowing in every direction.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool visual, and I'm curious to see
Mm-hmm.
if like is this like my questioning like when I saw it was like is Chimchar's ability actually blaze or is it something
Mm-hmm.
that is named something else but Paul just assumed that it was the ability blaze?
Right.
Is it if definitely like the way that the fire comes out more like in like looks like a heat wave rather than actual flames
Mm.
from its tail.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely see like Chimchar's eyes are red with rage.
Right.
So my immediate question there was like, is there like a mode for certain abilities? Kind of like Power Rangers had the regular suits and then they had the Battleizer suits, which is like a super power up.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely like something that intrigued me. Like, is there something more to Blaze? Like, is there like a power up of Blaze? Like maybe Blaze Rage mode or something like that, which I think maybe is just anime only, but it definitely a very like cool visual to see like this Chimchar just going all out.
Yeah. It's definitely
Yeah.
more of an anime thing. And I think the excuse that they kind of give is Ash being like, this isn't like any Blaze I've ever seen before,
Hmm.
because he has seen Blaze in the past. I think like Maze Combuskin used it at one point. Or another fire
Yeah,
type Pokemon.
yeah,
Um,
and
mhm.
I think it's definitely to emphasize more like how special this Chimchar is,
Yes,
because we
exactly.
kind of see from Paul that he believes it's special. And I kind of wonder if the whole like Chimchar family, like Chimchar, Monferno, and Infernape, is based on the Korean story of Wukong, which is the Monkey King,
Oh,
which inspired Dragon Ball Z,
mm-hmm.
also the manhwa God of High School. 'Cause I feel like it would definitely be like a cool tie-in and would explain why this Chimchar is very powerful. So
I feel
yeah,
like it is from what
yeah,
I've
right. It,
heard.
it feels like
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, yeah. It would kind of make sense too because at the end it becomes a firefighting. So I think that's like
Right.
a really cool nod that they also take influence from like different cultures when it comes to their Pokemon. But
Definitely.
yeah, we see this Chimchar grow out of control when Ash calls out its name and it's so enraged that it attacks Ash, and I was definitely surprised with that happened.
Yes, but right before this, it does seem to listen to Ash, though it's unclear now if that was the case, because Ash is like, "Yeah, we really got through the Chimchar." Brock kind of says like, "Yeah, it looks like Chimchar's desire to win
Oh, that's
and to
right.
defeat Paul. Yeah,
That's
Ash's
true.
desire to win, to defeat Paul, and also the support of its friends help to activate Blaze, is what Brock kind of deduces.
Yes.
And
Completely.
it uses a full power flame wheel that's able to knock out
Mhm.
Ursaring, and it's
Yeah.
like very clearly much stronger than its normal flame wheel.
Yeah, I completely skipped over that. I'm so sorry, Ursaring. I didn't mean to skip over that.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Uh-huh.
definitely get that glimpse of that enraged Blaze. Chimchar being
Right.
able to take out that Ursaring.
Yeah, and definitely feel sorry because this Ursaring like couldn't even get its focus blast to damage Chimchar, and just immediately gets knocked out on its back after getting hit by Flame Wheel. Um, but it looks like Chimchar is not really ready to calm down, even as Paul puts Ursaring back in its ball. And Paul says that's like the most powerful blaze I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I wish he was more enthusiastic or scared.
Mm-hmm.
He just says
Mm.
it like so. Oh, that was the most powerful Blaze I've ever seen.
Right, very
Like,
matter
come
of
on, man.
factly.
Like, are you a robot, dude?
He can't show that he's gotten upset. Is
Yeah.
uh, I guess his motive here. And then as Ash tries to call out to Chimchar saying, "Hey, you won, it's over," it goes into another flame wheel, which Ash dodges, but it's like just going in a frenzy basically. Going to Paul, and Paul is able to dodge, and then jumping around in the forest, setting trees on fire. Also, Team Rocket's been here, but they get blasted off, so that's that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they were upset with Gligar and wanted it to get a
Yeah.
knuckle sandwich, and we're
Hmm.
happy when it lost, but we're overjoyed with tears when Chimchar won.
Yes, they have a lot of
Because
mixed emotions about all of Ash's team.
because it goes to the callback of that episode where they helped it train,
Hmm.
and sadly they paid for it. They got caught in the they literally got caught in the crossfires. Where
Right.
it blasted away, and we see Chimchar also start a fire
Yeah, the forest fire is raging, and it's
on who uses Whirlpool with Piplup.
yes, we get whirlpool, and then we get what's it called? Oh, we get water
Water
gun.
gun, yes,
Yeah,
from Boisville. Who put
right.
out a fire on a tree, which I
Like,
thought it was like a cute little moment because it's like, oh, Piplup like took out the whole entire fire, but Boisville just took out the fire on a tree. So it
yeah,
was
it's
like,
like, oh, thanks, Weasel, I
yeah,
guess.
like I don't know if it was done on purpose, like to charm the audience, but I thought it was very charming to see.
Yeah. Weasel did something. Yeah. He could have used water poles actually. I don't know why he did it. But that's just a minor thing as they're able to put out the fire. Chimchar is still raging around. Ash like gets in its way, so it jumps in another direction, and then Pikachu jumps in the way, and it keeps like trying to run in different directions. But one by one, all of Ash's Pokemon and Piplup are able to block Chimchar until it like settles onto a rock where it just keeps screaming and blazing all over.
Part of me wonders if during all of this, Chimchar was in pain,
Mm.
because I think it's like an anime trope that when someone is enraged, they're also in pain.
Right.
But we see it once again. Ash will do anything for Pokemon in general, and goes to try to calm Chimchar down, and you see Dawn also wanting to do the same, or
Hmm.
kind of stepping in and being like, Ash has this, and we see his Pokemon as well, and I was like surprised and kind of hyped to see Piplup
Yeah.
also wanting to do that for Chimchar.
Right.
So I was like, wait, is that? I was like, that's not Ash's Pokemon. I thought it was like, did Ash catch a Pokemon that I just didn't pay attention to? It was
Yeah.
Piplup, and I was like, man, like Piplup just pretty much throwing itself as well.
Right. The reason they want to help is because Chimchar actually bites down on Ash as Ash tries to like hold its head and body to like keep it in place and calm it down, hopefully. But Brock's like, no, Ash will handle it. We get Weasel, Staravia, and Piplup all trying to support Ash as well. But Pikachu is like, no. Like it in the captions, it says anxious as it's like telling them like, no, like don't go in there. And it has a very dramatic close up of Pikachu, looking very serious.
And also, one thing they definitely like put a lot of focus on was Gligar as well.
Yeah, there was
during that entire like last part of like the episode, like you see Gligar kind of like I don't know if it's like in shock or scared. I don't know what.
Right.
Emotion.
In the closed captions, it says nervous for Gligar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because to me it kind of felt like it was in awe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was just like because it's kind of hard to draw nervousness when it comes to Pokemon.
Yeah.
But it definitely left me wondering, like, is there gonna be more to the reasoning why this Gligar specifically was focused on so much?
Yeah, like all of this is secretly a Gligar episode. Like it starts on Gligar, we kind of forget about it, but he's definitely the one that's like processing what it can mean to be a powerful Pokemon, basically.
Yeah.
And Ash is still trying to calm down Chimchar. Dawn points out, like, yeah, Blaze is a special ability that's supposed to help, but I'm pretty sure it shouldn't cause a Pokemon to get out of control like this. And as the fire starts to slowly like circle Ash and Chimchar, Ash keeps telling him, no, you have to stop, like the battle's over, you won. And then he just yells, Chimchar, stop. And Chimchar snaps out of it.
I kind of wish they would have put the dramatic music that the sub did, because that music just felt so ominous. Like you felt fear, Ash, but at the same time you felt like his will to try to help out Chimchar. There's like little subtleties that I kind of wish they did. Like they add an echo to Ash's scream, kind of like emphasize his desire to help it out. I kind of wish they did that with the English version, like give like his scream a bit more power to it, so that it meant something when the Chimchar stopped.
Oh, was it like more of an exaggerated echo?
Not exaggerated, but it was more like Ash was super desperate.
Okay, because when Ash does it in the English dub, it feels pretty decent echo when he says it, and the music also seems good. So maybe it's just a different.
Yeah, it was definitely a different vibe because it started off with like ominous violins, which just built to the moment. Yeah, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, I liked like that we keep adding to the character of Chimchar.
Right.
It's definitely a Pokemon that has a lot of layers to it. But I hope that it's not oversaturated, because it does kind of feel like this is gonna be his main Pokemon that we gonna be focusing on as we get onto the later episodes. So I just kind of hope that they're able to balance out the importance of each and every one of Ash's Pokemon, and not kind of make it feel like the Chimchar show.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes for sure. Paul actually walks up to Ash once Chimchar's calmed down, and he is like, hey, do you think you're going to be able to control that power? And Ash is like, hey, I don't know yet, but we're going to try. And then he says, spoken like a true fool. And I'm like,
Paul... Were you surprised by his tone when he asked that question?
A little, because it seemed kind of genuine.
Yeah, that's what I got the feeling too. It was like, it wasn't like, oh, you think you're gonna be able to control that? It was more like, hey, like, do you think you're gonna be able to control it? Like, he kind of
concerned almost.
Yeah, he definitely seemed concerned, but I guess he kind of was expecting Ash to say no, And I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's why he called him a fool, because he doesn't like when Ash is like confident, or he doesn't like to see Ash confident, so it just
Yeah.
irks him. Which was kind of, yeah, I was like, come on, man. Like,
He was so close.
yeah, could you at least care about something for once?
He does say though, like once you guys figure that out, that control, like
Yeah,
we'll
come and
battle
find me
again.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's like the first time I think he's ever said like, yeah, we'll battle again. It's
Yeah,
usually
so
Ash who
yeah, it
says it.
definitely shows that he acknowledges Chimchar's strength as
Right.
well. Because the reasoning for him wanting to battle Ash in the first place was because he saw Pikachu's Volt Tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm.
him seeing like the true power of Chimchar, or what we can assume at this point is Chimchar's true power,
Right.
was him kind of being like, oh, like this Chimchar is strong, and interested in battling it more.
Yeah, and I think it's also the fact that Paul wasn't able to bring out Blaze,
Mhm.
and Brock kind of breaks down the formula here, which is something that Paul just didn't seem like he was willing to do.
Well, yeah,
And,
but to kind of correct you, he did bring it out during his battle with Rourke. But I think it was
well,
more. I think
uh
it was more along the lines of Paul not being able to bring out the true
yes,
power of Blaze.
that's right. Yeah, I forgot about Rourke actually, but that's that. Yeah, interesting because this is a very different Blaze, so
Yeah.
it kind of puts into context like what everyone here who saw that battle thinks what is Blaze is supposed to look like.
Do you agree with Don's assessment? That, like, Paul couldn't do it, but Ash could.
I think I do. I think that's kind of the crux here of
If to me,
Chimchar.
it felt more like Chimchar Blaze came out of desperation rather than,
Yeah, I think the
because I feel like
execution wasn't great. Like it was true. Like everyone's like all the other factors were there that Chimchar wants to win. Chimchar wants to defeat Paul specifically, and Chimchar is being supported by his Pokemon, by like his comrades basically.
yeah.
But the big thing, the big factor is the fact that he passed out from fear basically of Ursaring.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely the key point. Like, if it wouldn't have been for the fear,
Mhm.
then maybe we would have seen an equivalent to what we saw with Rourke, the Blaze, a bit more powerful, and Chimchar being able to be under control of it. Whereas this was, it definitely was brought in by its desire and of acknowledging its friendship and wanting Ash to win. But I feel like fear took over more, and that's what caused it.
Yeah, that was the tipping point for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So, just to wrap this up and make sure we have time for the next episode here, what would you rate this episode of Diamond and Pearl Battle Dimension Chim-Charred?
Chim-Charred.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a good 8.5. I definitely like
Okay.
this episode. I was definitely taken aback that it was titled Chim-Charred, but we start with Gligar as the focus.
Yeah. The
It felt like
Japanese title is The Scorching
Zaru.
Hizuzaru.
Yeah,
So I think
Zaru.
Chimchar.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, Pokemon in Japanese, they pretty much give you what's gonna happen as the title, and to kind of give you like the funny puns.
That's English,
Um,
yeah.
but this episode to me felt like the Luxray episode, but done better.
Oh, okay.
'Cause we remember that like the main focus was Luxray's eyes, but it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of drawn out by Luxray not being able to use any electric type attacks. And
Yeah.
it kind of felt like they didn't know what they were doing. Whereas in this, it kind of gave you that focus of like Gligar definitely being an important part of this episode, while also giving emphasis and importance to Chimchar's development. Also, I feel like they did this part of what we kind of critiqued with the luxury episode. I feel like they did it well in this episode.
Yeah. I do enjoy a lot of what it accomplishes. I wish a lot of the argument, though, between Ash and Paul were more explicit. Like, I feel like the writers try to dodge around what they're trying to say in some instances. And, like, if you're going to deal with a character like Paul, just make it direct, because that's going to be the tone. Like, if you don't have him, it won't feel as satisfying for them to call out, like, this is the relationship that he's had with Chimchar. This is the relationship that he has with Ash, and how that's supposed to affect them moving forward. But overall, I still really enjoy the battle and the execution of them moving forward, because this is definitely a pivot point for how Paul and Ash see each other. So with all that said, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's a good grade. Yeah. It's definitely interested in seeing more of the development between these three, Ash, Paul, and Chimchar.
Mm-hmm. Like, this season started with that relationship, and now we're getting a much more substantial progression here onto what's going to happen next between all three of them. But now we're getting to one heck of an episode titled Cream of the Croagunk Crop. And our heroes have arrived in Pastoria City, which looks kind of cool in the opening scene, though we won't see much of it as the episode continues. Ash arrives at the gym, challenges the gym leader for his 4th badge, but is immediately knocked back at the entrance by a giant of a man who reveals himself to be the gym leader, none other than Crasher Wake.
Yes. This is, again, it's someone who never played the games and kind of stopped, not really stopped, but would watch the anime from time to time. Definitely my first introduction to Crasher Wake, or as he's known in the Japanese version, Maximum Mask.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Or they call him Maxi for short, but Ash refers to him as Maxi-san.
Nice.
But definitely energetic and infectious, and I definitely liked this character was kind of introduced.
Yeah, he's got a lot of energy. Dawn's even like, "Oh, what's this guy's deal?" And Brock's like, "Yep, there's gym leaders like him. Like, everyone's different." So yeah.
Yeah, because they show him in like an intimidating silhouette at first.
Right. And he looks like he's 20 feet tall until they see him again, and he's just like he's a very large man for sure. But
yeah,
Ash challenges him to a battle, but he says, "I got some urgent business to attend to today, so I can't do that, unfortunately." But then he's like, "Yeah, but you can come with me."
Yeah, and that's when you get a sense of like his personality, and he's kind of like a bit of a goofball, which I think is definitely cool.
Yeah, it's very fun to see him like immediately go to being a big smiling, like goofy kind of guy, and says, "I won't tell you where we're going, but just follow me."
Yeah.
and then gives a big hearty laugh.
Yeah, that again, definitely a great introduction. This gym leader, I liked how like gym leaders are not what they seem at times. You kind of like at first glance you seem like, oh man, like it's probably gonna be like all about fighting and discipline, being like the ocean, but you see that he's definitely an opposite from his first impression.
Right. He is a very like just happy and outgoing, rather than that like intimidating first look we saw of him.
Yeah, and he's definitely really fast as well as the kids are trying to catch up to him to get to the train.
Right, he's like, "Hurry, we'll make you the board," and he's like 50 yards ahead of them. So they run in to catch up as they get to the train station. Dawn pushing Brock for a bit also. And they're just able to get on board the tram, which takes off to the Great Marsh of Pastoria. So on the train, Crasher Wake's just telling them about the Pastoria Great Marsh and how he's very impressed by all that. Ash, of course, wondering what kind of Pokemon there are here. Dawn's still like, "I don't know where we're going." Like,
yeah, Dawn, I think Dawn was in the right mindset. Like, don't know who this guy is. He seems kind of off. You'd definitely be worried that you just hopped on a train with him to somewhere that he wouldn't even tell you.
Right.
There was also a glimpse of like kind of how wise he is when he says like there's nothing like the open space.
Right.
Again, just another complete like shift of that crazy personality that we first saw.
Yeah.
You see like this calming and grateful for like his life in general and
Mm-hmm.
what the ecosystem gives and takes, and which was another, I guess, another point for me to like definitely become a fan of this character.
Yeah, totally. And as they get off the train, he runs off on across these planks, and everyone chases him, but they end up losing him, and we cut to sunset. So this place is massive, clearly, because it's been like hours, I'm guessing, since they've been here.
Yeah, because we kind of get that sense because while they're on the trip to the train, they already acknowledge they're in the marsh.
Mm-hmm.
Or do they get to the marsh when they stop? I know he says like the great outdoors.
Yeah, technically they're
He
in the
doesn't.
marsh as soon as
Yeah,
they
they are
get
right.
on. Yeah, as soon as they get on the train, they're in the marsh, but the train's going to a specific area of the marsh.
Yeah, so it's definitely a huge marsh for them
Right.
to still be kind of lost by the time that it's sunset. This
Mm-hmm.
kind of gives you a glimpse just how wide and vast this. I wonder if they got lost along the way as well because he pretty much just left them there with
Yeah,
no direction whatsoever.
and apparently the path just like doesn't go anywhere after a certain point. So yeah, they're just wandering around, and they start to hear some noises and some glowing eyes from the bushes, which is where they see a bunch of Kroga come up, and they think initially, "Oh, is that Brock's?" And Brock's like, "No, mine's is in its ball." And all these other people start walking by with Krogunks, like walking with them, and then we get another cut to where it's like the sun's basically done setting. It's nighttime almost, and they arrive at this plaza slash shrine for Croagunk with a giant Croagunk statue and Crasher Wake waiting for them.
And this, I'm assuming this is anime exclusive only, right? This isn't in the game.
Yes, good guess. I would I would have been concerned if you're like, this is in the game, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of hope it's referenced in Legends at least.
or like maybe the remakes they add something similar to it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah. We see this huge statue of a Krogunk, and being a Krogunk fan, I'm just like wondering, like is there a legend to this Krogunk? Like, is this like a legendary Krogunk that made history, and they're just here to honor it? I liked what we ended up finding out after when they meet Crusher Wake.
Yeah, he explains that Krogunk are honored as guardians in the Pastoria Marsh, and people treat them with a lot of respect here, saying that each household in the city, like, is responsible for raising one Krogunk, and we get this shot of this family, like, bowing down to a Krogunk in their house on a throne.
Yeah, this is definitely.
So,
And
my
I like
question,
that. I like that Krogunk only knows one facial expression.
yeah.
And it's just, oh man, it's just so good. Like every time I look at that face, I just can't help but like laugh.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, Manny, I know you like Krogung, but do you think you would want to live in this city if you have to do this?
But I definitely would love to visit it when it comes to like the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I love embracing cultures when it comes to their festivals.
Uh-huh.
Um, being a Mexican American, I definitely love when Dia de los Muertos comes around. Dia the Dead for those that don't know Spanish, and I definitely love the Asian culture. There's something about that culture that just captivates me. So if I were like to say live in the Pokemon world and had a chance to embrace each and every culture that the Pokemon world has, I would definitely participate in them. And because I feel like for a trainer in Pokemon, it's a good bonding experience as well to grow with your Pokemon. So definitely would visit the Croagunk Festival, but I don't think I would live there just because I feel like I'd be more wanting to travel the world rather than to stay in one
Right.
place.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's more like I don't want to be forced to raise a Croagunk in my house if it involves like treating them like royalty, just because that'd be kind of weird. But again, this is just an anime take on the Croagunk
Yeah,
culture
and
here.
we definitely didn't get a feeling that there was like a character that felt like they were forced.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like a weird tradition to me. But I don't know. It could be worse. Then we see Nurse Joy talking with this trainer, and like Brock interprets that he's trying to propose to her, and he's like,
Mhm.
"No, I have to do that." but but it's revealed that he's actually trying to get his Croagunk to marry her Croagunk called Chrissy.
Yes, and the trainer's name you can assume is Alexander Hamilton. But I thought it was cool to see a Nurse Joy with the Krogunk rather than
Yeah.
a Chansey.
Mm-hmm.
I first the episode I saw it the dub version, and it was cool to hear Sonic's voice actor back
Oh.
play Hamilton. And I had
Uh-huh.
a double check. Yeah, I had to double check just to make sure. But I definitely it definitely is his voice actor. But I saw after this I saw the sub because what I like to do is like to see if there are different translations when it comes to what the characters say and how things are portrayed. What I wasn't expecting was what the character Hamilton looks like in the sub version. Will, and look at the picture that
Uh-huh.
I sent you. The second photo is what Hamilton looked like in the Japanese version.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So for
What?
our listeners who watch on YouTube, we'll definitely put these pictures up so that you can see them. But yeah, Hamilton is a blue-haired boy with goggles on his head, and the reasoning for this was because this character and its Krogunk is a parody of a comic manga known as Dokonjo Gairu, which is the Gutsy Frog. And if you look at the photo above Will, you can kind of see the resemblance between the two characters.
Okay.
So they kind of did it as a parody. But what happened was because they feared maybe they were like gonna get sued or something, they changed the design later on. And the voice actors for Hamilton, Nurse Joy, and Crasher in the Japanese version had to redo their lines because they redid the character design. Oh, it was definitely weird when I saw the character. At first, I was
What?
like, "Whoa, wait! Like, what's going on?" Right? Because it's not something you expected, right? Like they look completely different to each other.
That's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was really. It was definitely like. I was like, "Wait a minute! Why does he look different?" But yeah, there you have it. It's a character that was parodying this character in comedy manga known as Gutsy Frog, and because of that, they might get sued. They decided to change the design, and so now I think they aired reruns. It was with the new design that us American viewers see.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that original design, but it it did seem weird just watching this episode why Hamilton's had like a just like a slightly off personality. Like
Hmm.
for a lot of character of the day tropes, like they have like one shtick to them, but here it seems like a very specific kind of thing, and like he even at some points looks like he's walking like a frog or something, or like
Yeah.
waddling, and that explains so much of the okay.
We get introduced to his Croagunk, which is wearing brown.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what it's named in the English version.
Yeah, it's Craig in the English version.
No, the crown.
Oh, the crown? It's just
Yeah.
I don't think
Just
it
call
really
it the
has a
crown.
name. Yeah.
Okay, because in the Japanese they call it the Diamond and Pearl Championship.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. They do call it that here. But they don't call it that until later.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought that was a cool nod to the games. Um, and we see Brock's fantasy of if his Croagunk marries Nurse Joy's Croagunk, then what will happen to himself and Nurse Joy. Thankfully, Croagunk was there to snap him out of his fantasy.
Yes, and that's where Nurse Joy's like, "Oh, that Krogunk does seem strong."
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell since we've really only seen our Krogunk, so not a lot to compare to. But that's when we cut to Team Rocket, and they're miserable because they're walking through the swamp, or the marsh specifically, and then James is actually very happy because he has special memories of this place.
Yeah, and my memory's a bit off. Were they also walking in the nighttime?
Yes, in this like
Okay.
early evening.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But we get the exposition as to why
Right.
Carnivine is uh, biting James, which is explained to us as a sign of affection because we see little James walking happily in the marsh, and he sees a Carnivine that uh, looked like it was trapped, but I guess it was just hurt.
Yeah,
It was
it's
just,
not clear. It like it looked just muddy, so I wasn't sure what that was supposed to mean. But
yeah,
James,
because we see little James run to it and kind of start tugging it and pulling it. So that's why I
mhm,
assumed it was trapped. Freeze it and as a thank you, Carnivine nibbles on its head, and little James is actually laughing.
right,
So we find out why Carnivine is the way it is with James, and we cut back to present day, and Carnivine is doing the same,
yeah,
and James is just laughing in the background.
right. Because he's very happy, and this, of course, references the games because this is where you catch Carnivine. Actually,
The marsh?
yep.
Is it the marsh
So
was in the games?
no, the marsh is in the games. It's just
Oh,
the
okay.
area with the Krogan statue that isn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it.
So this whole thing does like exist, and it's kind of like this region's safari zone.
Mm.
And that's why it's kind of rare to find a Carnivine, but it is one of the Pokemon that is exclusive to this area. We don't really see a lot of other wild Pokemon, just Croagunk, but those two are probably the most notable ones that can be found in the Great Marsh.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's their version of a safari zone.
exactly. Yeah, without
Is
calling it
this
a Safari Zone.
is this like late into the game? Is it early on?
Well, it's the fourth gym badge, so about halfway, I'd say. And then we cut to Dawn and Ash just enjoying the festivities. Dawn really not liking the possibility of eating a Krogunk cookie, or a Krogunk pie, actually, that Ash offers her. And I'm like, yeah, what? I would eat it. Like, sure. It just looks like a Krogunk, but tastes good,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, because in the sub he just calls it a fried Krogunk. I guess that's why
Oh,
Dawn
okay.
was grossed out because she wasn't sure if it was an actual Krogunk or a cookie.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, but then the episode really kicks off, and
Yes, the festival starts,
we
and
the best part of this entire episode starts.
yeah. So This episode is very full of gags.
Yeah. Oh,
And
but we
uh-huh.
did overlook that Jesse as well wants to participate in this
Yes,
festival
because she
because
wants to win the Diamond and Pearl crown.
for somehow she was aware that this festival
Yeah,
exists.
like they showed us specifically for this, um, and like have their disguises. They've dressed up Meowth as a Croagunk. But yeah, I have no idea how she found out. But she's like, yeah, I'm gonna try to win, even though we don't have one, by using our fake Croagunk. And that's how I'll get my hands on the crown. And I see now why it's called the Diamond and Pearl crown. It has a diamond on the top, or it has a pearl on the top and a diamond on the front. But yeah, do you want to do you want to highlight some of your favorite moments from what happens here?
Definitely. I mean, first the Krogan has to give up the crown
Right.
because it's a kind of like a tournament in a way where whoever
Mhm.
wins will face that Krogan. We start off with the appeal, part of the festival,
Mhm.
in which um every Krogan goes up.
Oh
the
boy.
and we get the first Krogunk, and the audience is just like, oh. And we just see Krogunk hunch down. It gets its rating from the judges, and we go on to the next one. The audience gets even a bit louder, like, oh. And again, it
Oh.
gets its rating. The third one comes, and by this time, the crowd is just like wild and surprised, like, oh. And once again, it gets its rating,
Mhm.
and then it's Brock's Krogunk's turn. And nobody was expecting this Krogunk to show up because even the judges were taken aback.
They're
Like
all
that
speechless.
shine, yes, that shine on its cheek sacks.
The adorable eyes.
Yeah, that's the frighteningly adorable eyes. and
Jeez.
and we cut to Ash saying like, "Oh, like this crowd's really into it," and Dawn like, "Yeah, but I can't tell them apart. They
Yeah,
they all look the same to me."
and that's the whole joke is like they look
Yeah.
identical.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny that this time she was on that side of the conversation. Because we've
Mhm.
seen like her fix her hair, and now she's like, "Oh, well, it looks the same to me."
Yeah.
So I thought it was like a
Yeah.
funny switching of the gag.
Mhm. Yeah. It was great. Like everyone's confused. Brock's just very happy.
Yeah,
Um, and then it's time for Team Rocket's quote unquote Croagunk.
yeah. Meowth, reluctantly against his will, goes up, and it's apparently he's the best Krogunk that any of the villagers or townspeople have seen. Definitely gets high praise and moves on to the next round.
Yeah, to Meowth's surprise, they're like, "Yeah, but he's amazing. No one's seen a Croagunk quite like it," says Crasher Wake. And one of the judges says it looks prettier than a Persian.
Yeah, that was funny. But,
Yeah, like
out of out of every Pokemon,
uh-huh.
maybe he was aware that Galarian Persians exist. He's like, oh, they have a similar color scheme, but it definitely
uh,
looks prettier than a Persian.
yeah. So he, surprising everyone, Meowth makes it to the second round, even though it clearly does not look like a Croagunk. And the second round is about breaking some bricks. Also, this is where we see how many people are entering this contest. It's only like 6 Croagunk.
Yeah, I
And
feel
we've
like maybe
seen,
they did. I feel like they did that just for time. If
yeah,
they were to show every, it would probably take more than half an hour.
right, because it seems. Oh well, yeah. There's 6 of them that make it to the second round, right? Presumably, there's more that get cut out, but there's a lot of Croagunk here in this episode. Is why that surprised me a bit. But Brock's Croagunk takes to the stage and he's like, "Yeah, I know you can do it. Go for it, buddy."
Yeah. So the point of this competition was how many bricks can be broken. And one thing that I noticed was Brock's Krogunk is the only one that uses Brick Break.
Hmm.
The rest of the Krogunk just chopped it. Unless they were using Brick Break, their arms didn't light up like Brock's
Right.
Croagunk did.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that was cheating on the part of
Yeah.
Brock's Croagunk, but it did
Hmm.
manage to break all 10.
Yes.
And Meowth is up next, and Crasher Wake just comes up to Meowth to, I guess, his mind give him a morale boost and was like, hey, like, that Croagunk broke all 10. If you can, then this is where the line stops for you. No pressure whatsoever. Meowth nervously goes to do it and uses and channels his inner martial artist and goes for the hit. He breaks his paw.
Yeah. And he's out of the competition. It looked like there might have been a chance there, but no. Yeah, Mouth is having a rough time. Like, he didn't want to do this. He made it past the second round, and he actually tries legitimately here, but he unfortunately does not know break. And that's where we get to the final round, which you teased at the beginning here with the wrestling that you've been watching.
Yes, I saw. We see that the setup is a ring, with 2 ropes, and I was like, oh wow, like, okay, I'm excited. I'm ready for this. Let's see what goes on. So yeah, the challenge was Hamilton's Croagunk against Brock's Croagunk. It starts off with, was it cross chop?
Yes, first Nurse Joy is like, good luck, Brock, and he's like, I don't
Oh
need
yeah.
luck, I need.
So I guess it wasn't translated well in the English, but she was actually referring to Brock's Croagunk.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just Brock just heard his name and decided to stop her in her tracks. She never got to finish. Wishing good luck to the Croagunk, not Brock.
Right. Right. We get Craig facing off Brock Strogunk, and they kind of start by like feeling each other out, like throwing some punches, and this is where we get the cross chop from Craig, who uses
Yes,
the rope
and
to throw him forward.
yeah, it uses crush up and other move which I don't remember.
It follows up with dynamic punch.
There you go, dynamic punch. I thought that was really really cool that it has a moveset than Brock's Croagunk. Definitely like when Pokemon have different movesets than their counterparts.
Right.
So it's Brock's turn and Croagunk to use Poison Jab, and it gets 2 hits and then an uppercut. And I like the pose that Croagunk had while
Yeah.
Craig is like spinning in the air. It's just like, yeah,
Mhm.
victory is mine. And I actually thought that it was gonna be a 1-hit like knockout, but
Yeah.
Craig gets back up.
Right. And it doesn't look like it's over just yet. But before they can continue their battle, a giant mecha Croagunk literally falls out of the sky. It knocks over the giant Croagunk statue because it's even bigger than that. Meowth has an arm in a cast. He's still recovering from his injuries. But he's able to use the robot's sticky tongue to grab the crown. And Brock and Hamilton agree on a truce to try and get the crown back by having both their Croagunk try to attack Team Rocket in their Mecha Croagunk.
Yeah, Meow just wasn't having it. He's like,
Yeah.
forget the model. Let's just get the crown. Like we should have done this sooner. Like,
Right.
why put me through all that pain when we could have just used the mecha? But yeah, with both Croagunks, they try to stop Mecha Croagunk and are kind of struggling.
Right, because they've now been captured and are inside, I guess, with the tongue.
Yeah,
and
the visual was the tongue was out, but they were caught.
Right. And as they're figuring out what to do, Crasher Wake comes up from behind them and says, "It's my duty as the Pastoria," and he's trying to feel around his belt, but does not have any of his Pokemon with him, as he realizes he forgot them all at the gym in horror.
Yeah, once again showing off that he's a bit of a goofball.
Yeah.
He manages to gather up all the Croagunk. Like, well, join me and let's fight.
Yeah, he just like commands all the Croagunk to like try to take down this Team Rocket machine, but they're really not helpful here.
Yeah, and rest in peace to the Croagunk who fell off the mecha that you see on the side
Yeah,
of the. the TV just falls down.
It's kind of goofy for sure.
Yeah.
So Team Rocket is just like, well, let's kidnap all these Croagunk and just start scooping them into its belly, basically.
Yeah, which is a really, again, like that their plan all along, because if not, it was pretty convenient. They had a pocket, unless that's their entrance, the entranceway for how they got in there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely see them scooping up all the Croagunk and trainers, kind of like left with, oh, what do we do now?
Yeah, and Nurse Joy is like, all right, it's our time to save the day, Chrissy, her Croagunk. And they run at the at the mecha suit, or yeah, the mecha Croagunk, and dodge an attack from them. And she has Chrissy use a vacuum wave, which comes out in the shape of a heart, knocking over the big robotic Croagunk.
Yes, vacuum wave, again, a new move that I am introduced to. I had no knowledge of this move. So in the games, like, what does it look like? Does it have like a status effect?
Yeah, Vacuum Wave is a move that hits first, and it's a fighting type move that I believe uses special attack. It's
And
no
this-
longer in the games, though, unfortunately. Yeah,
Okay.
so
No metal bomb, no vacuum wave.
Magnet Bomb,
Oh,
yeah,
magnet bomb, yes.
right.
No magnet bomb, no my good. Will they be brought back in the remix? Who knows?
Hopefully, yeah. I always thought it was a cool move. It's great on like Riolu or Lucario sometimes. But now with all the Croagunk free from the Mecha Croagunk, Ash goes in with a Thunderbolt, blasting them off. And in celebration of this, Crasher Wake asks everyone, like, hey, Nurse Joy's Croagunk helped save the festival, so why not crown her as the winner for this year?
In Pokemon fashion, the jerk turns out to be a nice guy.
Hamilton, yeah.
Hamilton, yeah, embracing that if Nurse Joy wouldn't have stepped in, then the festival would have been ruined. So he was okay with her and her Croagunk getting the crown this year.
Brock is like, yeah, that's fine with me. So is Hamilton, as Crasher Wake declares this. And now she has a big bow on her head and a crown. So that's Chrissy's new look for the next year, I guess.
Yes. And we end off the night with a wonderful festival. And in the Japanese version, if our listeners want to look it up, because it's definitely a nice, interesting song. They're playing the Pokemon Oban song, and we still kind of see like Dawn. She's a bit, I guess, weirded out about this festival because Ash is just like, hey, like, let's go dance. Like, this dance looks cool. And she's like, oh, no, I'm fine. But we see Ash
she's like, that's all right. You go ahead.
The dance that the people do is an actual dance.
Oh.
It's a dance that is used in the Bon Odori festival, which is a Buddhist festival that honors the spirits of their ancestors.
Interesting.
So I like that they added, like, once again, they added from the Asian culture, which I'm sure, like, like Asian viewers know what it is, but for us American viewers, there's a bit of trivia for you guys that they added an actual customary dance used at a festival.
Nice, that's cool. And it also makes it look weirder because Ash doesn't know what he's doing, clearly.
Yeah, that was funny.
The episode wraps up with Hamilton, Brock, and Nurse Joy all dancing alongside their Croagunk, and zooms in on Croagunk's face. So, what would you rate episode 28 About Dimension Cream of the Croagunk Crop?
I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm not gonna use my Croagunk bias and give it a 10. I'm giving it an 8 just to be fair side, because I definitely did enjoy this episode. Definitely an episode that made me laugh. Every gag for me definitely hit. I liked seeing that was kind of praised as something, as a guardian, and then the introduction to Crasher Wake as well was definitely added to the episode, I feel, because of his personality kind of fit with the whole aspect of this episode being lighthearted and overall a good time for the viewer to see. And again, I liked finding out the different facts that we did, like Hamilton's original design being completely different to what us American viewers were introduced to. Just finding out that they actually used an actual dance that is used in the Buddhist culture. I'll give it an 8.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely keeping in mind it's a gag episode for the most part. But in there, they still do a good job of introducing Crasher Wake, the Great Marsh, putting some context there. But I feel like they could have still done an episode exploring more of how the marsh actually works. But maybe it's just because they don't want to put too much attention on it since it's technically the safari zone of the game, and it seems like the safari zone has been now kind of cut from a lot of Pokemon games, given its how like rules for video games have changed and stuff like that. So I get why they might have done that. But I also feel like the introduction was kind of weirdly paced, where they show up at the gym, they run to the train station with Crasher Wake. Crasher Wake just abandons them at one point. And I don't know. I think they could do more with the city itself. And the Croagunk Festival is like one element of it that I'm interested in, but I think there's a lot that they could have shown, especially with the marsh in particular. Though I do like that they showed Carnivine, and like, oh yeah, Carnivine comes from this area in the game. So with all that said, I think I'd give it a 7 out.
Yeah, that's a good rating, and I definitely do agree. Where I'm in the same boat as you as well. Where like when we're introduced to a new city or a new place, like I definitely want to learn more about that place and see it more. We saw our characters walking, and we kind of wish that they could have shown the other Pokemon that live in the marsh as well before they got to the Croagunk.
Yeah, the only wild Pokemon we see are Croagunk, and our heroes just walk right through this marsh and like see no other Pokemon until they find these Croagunk. So it does seem a little weird that they decided to not really show off anything else. But question of the week: what Pokemon would you want to have a festival for like this? If you had a Croagunk festival equivalent?
Definitely an Eevee festival, just because I feel like the lore of the Eevee can evolve into so many Pokemon. Like each one of those evolutions being praised in a festival would definitely be a beautiful festival, because you'd have so many color schemes, and like each Pokemon would have its own section of why it's an important part of Eevee's existence and being. So yeah, definitely a festival that gives praise to Eevee and its evolutions.
That'd be nice. I like that answer. You could do a lot with like them competing or them showing how each one has their own strengths and weaknesses for sure.
Yeah, because it would be cool to hear like if each one of those has their own story, just like how Croagunk is protector of the marsh.
Yeah, definitely, and like their connection. Because the context with Croagunk is that it's very much tied to the city and the location. But with Eevee, it could be that, or it could be more just like worldwide and global in its scale. For like, hey, Eevee trainers, come here and show off what your Eevee can do, because Eevee has so many variations. I think it would be interesting if there was. I was gonna say like Tilly Ursip. I feel like I say Tilly Ursip for a lot. I think Apom could be an interesting one, because I could see a culture that revolves around Apom's tail hand, and being like, this is a symbolic gesture or symbolic thing in terms of us like having food and like being able to help one another. Like there's a lot of little things in terms of how it can be used. That would be a fun one, I think. And also maybe with Ambipom, being like, yes, and when it evolves, we celebrate this at the festival because that means Ambipom has more hands to help us with and like help each other or something.
Yeah, I like that idea. I feel like if it were to have a story, it would probably be that one day an ambipom helped out a villager because of that
Yeah.
help, like maybe like helping like agriculture and maybe in a culture that was kind of low on food or going through a hard time, ambipom helped, and so that's why the importance of apom's tail and ambipom's tail
Mm-hmm.
celebrated.
Yeah. And it could be like you make a print, like a handprint of the tail or something to symbolize the ambipom. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of it for us this week as we wrap up. A lot of the trivia we kind of spoke about already, especially with the breakdown here that Manny had for us about the character, which is really fascinating. So thanks for sharing that with us. That is kind of the end here for us on this episode of Sights on Sinnoh. But this has been pretty much it for us as we kind of put a pause on Pastoria City and move on to this little arc, which kind of has its own history in terms of publication or in terms of broadcast, I mean. And yeah, as always, I've been Will.
This is Manny, the lover of Croagunks.
And we will see you in Sinnoh. Have a good one.
Bye.